Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. And tonight we have a very special guest, writer, director of Along Came the Devil 1 and 2, Jason DeVan. Jason, how you doing?
How you doing? Good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It is our pleasure. Thank you for coming on our show. And let's just go ahead and start talking about these two movies. First question I actually have for you is, did you know, cats always want to get in the picture.
Always. She
Always.
totally left me alone until we started. This came up. So.
Actually, the first question that I have for you, Jason, is: did you know that you were going to get a sequel from the original pretty soon after the first one came out? Like, was it a package deal that, if the first one was successful, you guys were going to do a second one? How did you find out that you were going to get a sequel?
Yeah, no, we had originally always wrote it to be a sequel and to be a three-part trilogy. And, so initially when we were working on it, we kind of were taking a shot in the dark, hoping that the fans, appreciated it or liked the movie. Either way, the way we had set it up, we left it open for a sequel. And I guess around Thanksgiving, our distribution company called me up and said that the movie's doing so well that could we drop everything we're doing and start working on a sequel?
That's the best news you can get.
That is. So, of course, we had a nice holiday season and got right to work on part two.
Awesome, awesome. That's because the first one, came out in 17, and the second one came out in 19.
It did. Well, the original was released, I guess, around 18, and it was initially Tell Me Your Name when it was doing the festivals.
Okay.
Which I put up a poster for you just so you could see the original poster.
Okay, that makes sense.
And and then after when you sell your movie and distribution gets involved, they have their reasons, and they said, is there another name you'd like for the movie? And after some deliberation, we came up with Along Came the Devil,
which is a kick-ass title.
Thank you.
That is a kick-ass title.
It took some time, and it's a family affair, and I believe my youngest son helped with that one, and that was one of the ones that he was really pushing for.
Awesome,
So
awesome.
yeah.
You should have. Well, the whole family's given credit, so I guess that counts. In the credits. Now,
Yeah.
Along Came the Devil. In the beginning, it says it's inspired by true events. What can you tell us about the true events that inspired you to write and direct this movie?
Yeah, it's actually so a lot of the first story is based on a family that I'm really good friends with now. They're from Brazil and really close friends of ours. And as I was working on the film, I asked them, would it be okay? Can I interview some of the pieces that I know of this story because it's going to make a hell of a story. And a lot of times the truth in a story is what makes it such a good movie to begin with.
Yeah.
They said absolutely, and I kept their names changed and changed a few things just for the family's personal reasons, and that's kind of how we got that whole gist of what their family went through and what our young Ashley, Sydney Sweeney, went through in the first film.
Okay, that's great, and you're right. When a film does have some real inspiration behind it, for some reason, as the fans, it does grow our appeal into getting into the film a little bit more. Now, you chose to open the first movie with that written portion in the background. Is that how you initially wanted to start the story off?
No, it's not. It's not initially how I wanted to start it. But obviously, when you're working on a low budget film and time constraints and different cuts and edits and trying to get the audience the main part of the story, we felt that it was crucial. I'm a big Steven Spielberg Star Wars fan as well, so of course, I hate to just throw the context up at the beginning of the film because I'm not a fan of that. But in some instances, if it helps the audience know a few things maybe that they're getting into, which the first one did have a lot of questions that we left on the table purposely, for the trilogy. So then that's we worked our way into the context of I believe when we did the festivals, I don't think the original text was there.
Okay.
But we released worldwide. That's when the text came in.
Okay, and was that your idea? or was it the
Um,
distribution company?
yeah, no, that was my idea
Okay.
to just fill some of those loopholes in that I felt needed answered if that wasn't there.
Now, since this involved researching a real family who, probably experienced events similar to what happened in the movie, how long did it actually take you to draft and write the script?
Oh wow. I believe the first draft, we started out with the treatment, and and then we went into writing the script. But I believe the treatment took us probably about a month, because I was working on another film with Michael Bean, and I had that idea. I've told this story many a times. I had this idea, and the first thing I came up with was "Tell Me Your Name." I hopped out of bed and I'm like, I really want to do an exorcism movie, and it's called Tell Me Your Name. And I woke my wife up and I started writing all the notes down and jotting things, and she's like, "Yeah, go back to sleep. We'll talk about this later." And then we kind of got right to work. And I think a lot of the story was I was inspired by the family that I had interviewed. So I had known a lot of their story before I actually started writing it. So then the whole idea was to where could I put those pieces of the puzzle that I was getting from their story into this new exorcism movie.
Yeah.
And also trying to pay a little homage to the original Exorcist. So,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah. I
very,
I love exorcism movies myself as well. When it comes to the horror genre, my favorite subgenre in horror is the paranormal. Whether it's possessed or haunted houses, your possessions, exorcisms. I'm all in on that. Now, when you were directing this and also writing it, uh, because it was inspired by events from a family that you know now, did you feel a little bit of added pressure to sort of keep their story? Uh, I don't know what the right word is, to tell their story the right way, but also keep the cinematic elements and the viewers engaged as well. How did you find the balance between those two?
yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Yeah, I was very concerned. I didn't want to do anything wrong or anything to rub them the wrong way, because I do care for this family, and at the same time, uh, the things that I did, I would get their blessing for, and if I did it the right way, and I'd hate to say some of the things I actually had to tone back
Wow.
while doing the film and tone it down a bit, because even making that first film, it was kind of my first feature film that was going out worldwide. I didn't know what the rating was going to be, what I was pushing for, and just excited to be making a movie and making a film. So yeah, and at the same time, I think we were excited to do just to them too and their family and have their approval. So
Nice. Nice. So let's get into this the story. Well, first let's talk about the casting. Bruce
mhm.
Davison, renowned actor. Did you have him in mind to play Reverend Michael, or did you go through a long audition process to find the Reverend, who was not as relevant in the first film, at least not till the end, as he was in the second film?
Right.
So walk us through the casting of Reverend Michael.
Okay, so initially, Ricky Maslar, our casting director, was amazing. When we had our first meeting, I had talked to her that I said I would love like some actors that maybe aren't quite as known or that are on the verge of an independent feel and things like that. Hence, but that's not exactly what you'd say Bruce Davison is.
No.
And I ended up initially we wanted oh goodness, his name is slipping my mind right now. He's on The Walking Dead. He played he's passed late. He passed away. Um,
Herschel.
yeah, yeah,
Scott
yeah.
Wilson.
Wilson, yeah.
Yes.
So Scott's agent and Scott had the script first, and it was pretty much my offer was straight to him because I'm a big fan of him and the show. And then he sat on it, and at the time we weren't sure if he was going to take it. And Ricky said we have to open this casting up, and then a lot of great actors started coming in, but Bruce just when he came in and said, "Oh, I'm interested in doing it. I love the idea, and I've done exorcism movies before,
Hmm.
and this is before I think he did the Exorcist TV show. He did our film, and then he did one over in Italy, something in Italy. But yeah, I just knew right away he was a great choice. So
he,
It was great to have Bruce.
he was a very complicated character, Reverend
Mhm.
Michael, because in the first film, he's in, at least for acts one and two, he's sort of a
Mhm.
background player. You could see that he drinks, and when the younger priest comes in, he tells him to put the book away about demonic possession and exorcisms. And in his my take on it was that the character felt defeated by evil, and he's trying to find some way to redeem himself with all the defeats that he has to face, that he had to face along his life to evil. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. That's pretty much how we wrote his character as well. One of the things I got from interviewing a few of the priests that have performed exorcisms, we really dove into our homework on doing some of the things that we did, and how we sculpted Bruce's character. And one of my takeaways was from the priests that would tell me they would perform exorcisms, like, when you're performing an exorcism on an 8-year-old girl in Africa, and she's speaking in a language she doesn't know, clear as day. And I've heard vomiting spiders out, like live spiders. And when you hear this, you don't think this person is actually making anything up or fabricating this story.
Mm-hmm.
You can see terror in the eyes of the story they're telling. And these are men of faith. And then also at the same time, they're saying that they're questioning their own faith because they're there to help this individual.
Yeah.
So that's what we wanted to bring to Bruce's character, that so much has taken its toll on him in a way that he can convey it, that there might be nothing he can do, no matter how much amount of praying he does.
Yeah.
And, so we tried to give him that.
So we find out. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Let's Bruce Davidson. Obviously, he signed on for the first one. Did you have to reach out to him again for the second one when you found out that there was going to be a second one? Was he all gung ho to jump on the second one as well?
Yeah, the nice thing about it was, when we make our films, we definitely have like a family environment and try and, stay in touch with everybody. And for the most part, everybody has stayed close with each other, and we're all pretty much friends and family to this day. So when Bruce got the call, he was like, "Let's go." And and then when we did part two, we were smart enough to go ahead and do it, get him under contract, because we figured if we did part two, we also had a part three ready to go. So,
Yeah.
we him with us and was ready to roll for both for the next one, part three.
Now, is there going to be a part three?
Uh, yes, I can say there will a part three.
All
Will be a
right.
part three. I can't say when, but yes, there will be a
Okay.
part three.
Okay. I wasn't gonna ask, but you brought it up, so I'm like, let me try to get that. All right. That's good. That's something to look forward to. Now, the films center around Ashley, Jordan, the two sisters. Who, by the way, Laura Wiggins is going to be our guest here in about 10 days or so. So
I
yeah,
heard. Yep.
so looking forward to talking to Laura. But two sisters, Ashley, Jordan, their mother, who they think is deceased, Sarah, and an abusive drunk dad. The way the two films rolled out, the first one is about Ashley, and then the second one goes with Jordan. Is that how you wanted it to go? Did you want to bring back Sydney for the second one? It just didn't work out, so you had to really redo the script. Tell us how it went that way, where the first one was with Sydney Sweeney, who played Ashley, and then Laura Wiggins in the second one, who played the older sister, Jordan.
Right. Yeah. In the first one, we tried to stick to the family story as much as possible. We had that ending that we were excited about, where the mother is found in the dungeon. With part two, we were on such a fast track of like distribution asking us, can we get this film done before Halloween, the October of the next year, that I kind of just went right to work with my wife and Heather and I, who plays the mother,
Yeah,
Sarah.
I
In the,
know. I know.
yeah. So and she was super excited herself. We got down and we didn't have anything tying our hands this time of sticking to the story, but I had tons of notes for part two and how I wanted to tell Jordan's story coming home from college, and how and then that's when I wanted to go more into the realm, which with part two, if you've seen it, there's more of an homage paid to The Shining, and
Yeah.
I want that feeling of The Shining with the father, and you know where the demon might be setting its eyes on one person, and you think that's who it's gonna go after. I tried to put the twist that it goes after someone completely different that you didn't think was gonna get it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Now, the character of Tanya, played by Jessica,
Mhm.
very prevalent in the first film, not in the second, just mentioned. Her and Ashley in the beginning, they went away, but we never see, well, neither of the two in the second. But in regards to the character of Tanya, uh, was that your intention? Jessica can be fit in. She can do it for scheduling reasons.
Oh yeah.
Did you not want the character of Tanya in the second movie?
No. So I let and Jessica Martha's a good friend of ours too. So I actually I had to let her know, like Jessica, we didn't kill you off or anything like that. And because she was like, where am I at for the second one? And she I don't want to give anything away for part three, but if in part two you realize that she is also down in the dungeon with Sydney.
Yeah.
Sydney, it kind of worked out because we had an idea, and when I cast Sydney, that this was before Handmaid's Tale and Everything Sucks and all of the fame that she's been going on and doing now. But we knew we had a superstar
Oh
on our
yeah.
hands, and it was neat to have her on set and on film because she was amazing with the way she brought Ashley to life. There's stories behind the scenes of her doing amazing things, and then it just worked out because she was busy filming. We were talking to her about a few other films while she was working, and that girl is staying busy. She's gone from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and you know how it works in Hollywood. You know, if you have a good relationship with your actors, that's great. You can get them,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, you also have to pay that salary.
Exactly.
So, so which the bigger the actors get, it can cut into a big part of your budget. So,
But
yeah.
but looking at all of the success that Sydney has achieved, I mean, you casted her, or at least you played a role in casting her. That must make you feel really good that you really gave this girl the break in her career.
Yeah, so proud of her. I mean, I'm proud of all of our actors. From beginning to end, we all bonded, and they believed in the project as much as I believed in it, and that's kind of what can make or break a film
Yeah.
is everybody getting on board and the sum of all parts, and everybody believed in what we were doing, and I kind of knew that. I had told her on set all the stuff that was coming her way, so I know no matter what, she knows, like I was in her ear, which probably a lot of people may have been in her ear, but I was telling her, hang on, life's about to get a lot more exciting.
Yes,
So
yes, that's a great
in our
story.
in our young actress who plays young Ashley in the closet is Leah McHugh, who is in the new Marvels movie. She
Wow,
plays Bright in the Eternals.
I did
So
not know that.
she's blown up and gone on to big.
Wow.
Oh, so I claim her as well.
I love that. I love that. Now, in both movies, the demonic imagery in the movies is amazing, scary. Uh, Now, did you lean more towards practical effects as opposed to CGI? How was that all designed? The imagery, the demonic look, scary as hell. I mean, pardon the pun, but
Yeah.
really scary. How did that go? Was it practical effects, CGI? What did you want to do more of?
Yeah, when we first started out, I wanted it to be as much practical effects as I possibly could. We brought in George Trauster
Mm-hmm.
from TV show Face Off,
Yep.
Sci-Fi Face Off, and he headed the special effects team, and we did as much as we possibly could. And then after that, we brought in Aaron Kamenar and Leo Facelli to handle the visual effects, and then they kind of spice things up, so to speak. And in today's world, like I am a big practical effects from Jason Voorhees to Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Some of that simplistic stuff is scarier than when you get taken out of visual effects. But if you can kind of if you can mix the two in, it can it can make for a nicer scare or a nicer visual effect, and that's kind of what we worked on doing.
Yeah.
It had a little bit of both.
And Along Came the Devil 1 and 2 was full of that. Now, when you were behind the camera and you were directing, I've interviewed a lot of directors, and they all talk about they have their techniques when it comes to lighting and so on. As you directing these two films, what was your secret to achieve that eerie feel and look?
Um, you know, I would sit down with my DP and my cinematographer. Jay Rajari is amazing. I mean, he is a student of the game, and I mean, he soaks up like a lighter, just like a gaffer. He's also an amazing gaffer as well, and he will. We'll sit down together for hours and do a storyboard and script board, and he'll do colors and schemes of what we want each scene to look like, and he'll pick my brain of what I'm going for, and that's kind of just, it's a collaboration of going through what we're looking for and if we get it, and kind of that's what we do on each step for step, each scene. That's what we do.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, and at the same time, I would have to say, as a fan of horror and old horror movies from 70s, 80s, all the way up till now, there's probably little scenes, if you're a horror fan and you rewatch these movies, you'll see that I may have done something like an old time horror movie that I'm a fan of from back in the day. But you really have to watch and know your horror. But you'll see it and you'll say, oh my gosh, this is why he did it this way and shot it that way. That's kind of how my brain works.
That's awesome. I mean, I love to see that. Like the most used scene, especially in demonic movies, is from The Exorcist when Max von Sydow shows up at the house with the eerie street lights, and that has to be like the most copied scene in television
Yeah.
and movies ever. Now,
Yeah.
in Along Came the Devil, there's this intense scene when Ashley's in the bathtub, puts her face underwater and screams, and all this blood comes out. Very graphic, gruesome, but yet really awesome to watch. How'd you get that idea? It was crazy to watch, but how did that come to you?
Uh, I just wanted to do a cool underwater scene where I love the shots when you see somebody wrestling with someone else and they dunk their head in and you see their eyes open
Yeah.
trying to get the breath. And we had a bathtub scene, where the demons is there, and she had run into the first, possessed mother standing outside where the devil was actually kind of trying to get to her. So it was kind of just an imagery of her falling asleep and her vomiting up something that has entered into her. But I wanted to be pretty at the same time. So thanks for noticing that.
Yeah.
So we had a giant like tub set up outside of the bathtub. We shot that scene separately. And Sydney would dunk her head in, and the camera was under the tank shooting up into the tank,
Wow.
and then that in her mouth full of blood. So yeah.
Now, what's left vague and up to viewer interpretation is this demon. Obviously, it's a demon that is. It seems to be targeting this family, from mother to children, and eventually to father as well. Did you want to leave that more up to viewer interpretation rather than giving us the story as to maybe why this demon has attached itself to this family? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we were initially just really, it's the age old adage of sometimes parents can pass their demons on, to their children, and that could be anything from habits to beliefs, and that's what we were going for, was to show that sometimes these things can be passed down to your children with the parent, and so that's initially what we were going for in part one. But the idea had come to me for part two as we were writing. I wanted to switch it up. Ashley, Sydney Sweeney's character, went through so much, man, and I can tell you, shooting exorcism scenes, that's why the original Exorcist took, over a year to shoot, and the money that I can't imagine what went into it. It's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. It's super creepy being on set shooting things. So I would do my best to bring our actors out of that feeling of the environment of during the possession scenes. But initially I think we wanted the audience to feel that this is sometimes these things can be passed down to your parents, like
Yeah.
that lesson. parents can pass demons on to their children. So yeah, we were sticking with that.
Now, I have a question. I vow that I don't like asking questions to my guests that I know they cannot answer, but I'm going to give in to the temptation just this
Okay.
once. I'm going to ask this, and if you can't answer it, that's absolutely fine. In the third one, it's a pretty general, vague question, but in the third one, are we going to get a forward moving story or a story that's going to reveal more of what has happened in the past? Can you answer that? If you're not, we'll just move on to the next question.
Uh, I can answer it in the best way possible. I'm really wanting to go out with a bang in three, and let's just say those who can be brought back, I'd love to bring them. We're working on bringing them back for three, and there's going to be closure. So
Okay.
that's pretty much there'll be closure to the story, and I want the audience to hang on from start to finish. And end with a bang.
Are you also writing? I'm assuming you're writing and directing the third one as well.
I hope so. We're working on a couple other projects right now, and we have one in the making that we're extremely excited about. We had other ones that were not horror, but the horror movie that I was writing has been bumped up, and now that's on the forefront, and we're extremely excited about this horror movie.
Now, would you say you and your lovely wife Heather and your kids are you guys all horror fans?
Yes, we are all horror fans. I raised my kids to be horror fans, and my wife and I are horror fans. I mean, but to be fair, we're just movie fans in
Oh
general.
yeah.
I'm probably a bigger horror fan, and that's what I always say. Most horror fans are fans of all movies in general, but
Yes.
horror is their favorite genre. Whereas people who love romance, they may not watch any horror movies. So horror movie. If you're a horror movie fan, you can pretty much watch anything
Yeah.
and give your opinion.
I got to tell you this. Me and my wife, I'm a horror fan, obviously, and my wife is this period piece romantic movie lover. So you can imagine when we're trying to like watch and have a date night, we have to pick something in the middle of the line. It's been working for 21 years, so I'm not going to rock the boat. Now, going
Okay.
back to Ashley and Jordan's relationship,
Mhm.
that opening sequence in the first movie when they're in the closet uh, is really nice, and the love that these two sisters show each other at such a young age, especially
Mhm.
Jordan to Ashley, with their mom gone and so on. Uh, that was just real. It just hits you right here, and then it gets the mood really changes when we find out why they're in the closet. When the dad comes in drunk and it takes a really dark, sinister turn. Was that done on purpose? Did you want to start the scene off as this heartfelt, warm relationship between sisters, and then throw in the abusive dad and what he's doing?
Yeah, pretty much that's like I said before, sometimes the things that hit us the most are the things that you think, is that really, would that really happen? Is someone doing that? And yeah, unfortunately, it's taken a bit of truth with a little bit of movie making magic in there mixed in. But the bond that the sisters have is a real bond, and thankfully everything is okay with this family. Nothing like the turn that the movie takes.
No.
This family is healthy and happy and loving with each other right now. So, but yeah, some of the story though that we got in there that really hit people in their heart,
Hmm.
and with the father and things like that, was taken from a bit of the story of the family. And it really is a sad one in that instance, in those circumstances.
To be honest with you, Jason, I was really surprised that you brought back the dad for the second movie, and he ends up playing a very vital role. Was that always the plan?
You know what? I had it and I didn't share it with my wife. These are some notes and ideas that I had, and I really wanted. Mark Ashworth is an amazing actor,
Hmm.
and he's gone on and he does tons of stuff and works constantly. I really wanted the opportunity to work with him, and I actually whispered to him on set. This is a true story. I looked at him while he was shooting, and I said, two. And I told him we're gonna be working again. And he looked at me like he didn't know what I was talking about. And at the time I wasn't sure. I just knew I wanted to work with him again. And yeah, and then I and also with some of the true story, I was trying to rebuild the father's character as best I could too, because that actually is part of the true story with the family,
Yeah.
that the dad reformed and is a much better man nowadays. So I wanted to kind of give that character that change,
Yeah.
and that's what brought it back.
Let's talk a little bit about Madison Lintz.
Uh-huh,
She was in the first one, and
uh-huh.
a lot of people of The Walking Dead know Madison Lintz as Sophia. And you said earlier in the show tonight that you're a fan of The Walking Dead. Um, what did that play into you casting Madison for that role?
Yeah, so a funny story with Madison. We were actually going after Mackenzie Lentz. So her older sister is a really good actor, and at the time was coming off of another TV show, and she had just wrapped that show. And so we were really wanting her, and I don't know what happened, but somehow or another, um, they were like, well, Madison is Sophia. She's on, Bosch and blah, blah, blah. And she's an amazing actress. And I was like,
She
I
is.
know. Well, and she came in actually in red for her scene for me here in Atlanta. And of course, I mean, she had the star power too. When she walked into the room, everybody, you could feel her energy, her confidence. And I mean, it was kind of a done deal. And then that whole Lynch family is very
Oh
talented.
yeah,
The mother, the father, the brothers, and
all
the
of them.
sister. They're all very talented. So it made our job easy. So it was just a pleasure to work with Madison, and we were very fortunate to have her in the movie as well.
Now, were both movies shot in Atlanta?
Yes, they both were shot here in Atlanta,
Okay.
from Flowery Branch to Lake Lanier, all around the Atlanta, Georgia area.
Okay. All right. Now, let's go back into some of the, like the poltergeist activity in the movies, the objects moving, the bed shaking. Of course, if you add that to any kind of demonic possession movie, it's just going to amp it up. And if it's
Mhm.
done the right way, it's going to make it that much better. Um, did that take a long time to put in, like the bed shaking? Did you go old school with that again with practical stuff, like secret wires hanging up, somebody shaking the bed? How did that all come together?
Yeah. I actually we had one of our crew members, a pretty strong guy, Lane, under the bed, and he would take his cues of when he was to shake the bed, and he would lift it up, and he was our bed shaker. We also did the practical effects too because I wanted, we got Freddy Krueger coming through a wall and in Nightmare on Elm Street, and so I always wanted to do something like that with a possession. And that's why we actually had cut out the mattress on, if you remember the scene with
Yeah,
Sydney, where Matt Dallas is praying over her and the face comes up out of the
yeah.
sheets. It's actually one of our crew members in under the bed in a hole in the mattress coming up through the sheet with a little VFX added on to clean it up in that scene. So yeah, we tried to do as much as we could practically and with a little VFX added.
Now the budget that you had for the first one, you said was pretty low.
Yeah.
Did that, make force you to become even more innovative and creative to achieve some of the effects that you wanted to show?
Yes, it did because we were trying to pour everything into practical effects in the movie in general. So we at that time, we were trying to eat caviar on a McDonald's budget, and and at some points in times, like there was a scene that we got a lot of things where people said, "Could you shoot a school? Why didn't you shoot a school scene with Sydney?" And I wanted to know what happened to her when she came out, and everyone said she was so distraught.
Yeah,
And it's tough because it's like some of that stuff that we couldn't shoot, just it wasn't in the budget. And when you're making a low budget, you're not sure if it's going to do well. We believe that it was going to do well, but you have to make decisions on what stays and what doesn't, and little things like that are why. And then like it's a good thing we did because then we had to take the remaining money we had and put it into the visual effects that came in
Yeah, yeah.
that needed to be added. So yeah.
Now, did your budget increase, or was it the same for the second one?
I mean, it increased a little bit, like, but not too much, and that's where Aaron Kamenar and Leo Vaselli came in, and we sat down with them, and just like a movie, we did a shot list on what visual effects we needed, what was important, what wasn't important, So, but I know, and then in part two, we were more prepared for our visual effects, and that's when we worked with our head of VFX, Steve Bone, who's here in Atlanta, and I mean, and him and his team, they were on it from start to finish. So on part two, I was able to bring the VFX team on set, and Steve was right next to me the whole time, and we would discuss, hey, should we shoot this? Do we want to add this? How's this look? And things like that. I didn't have that on part one. I wish I did, but I didn't.
So, is Along Came the Devil from one to two the first two feature film like sequel project that you've ever directed and wrote?
Yeah. Yep, they are.
Is there any? I've never asked this question to any of the directors that I've spoken to, but what's it like going from the first one to the second one? Is it just like a big family reunion? Do you bring back the same crew? I know, like you said, it's a big family business, your production company, which I think is awesome. What's it like going from a first movie to a sequel? And do you call everybody up, say, pack your bags, we're going at it again? How does it work?
Yeah, pretty much. Everybody that stays close. Some of the crew and some of the people are on working another job, or they have a conflict and we couldn't bring them in. And but even for part two, we were already here in Atlanta, and so we were able to get a lot more local crew here in Atlanta, but still bring like our main guys that are in California that work with us, and like my cinematographer, Jay, he goes everywhere with us. He's absolutely amazing. George Trouster that I had mentioned. So some of the crew we came, I just put in a phone call and said, hey guys, you want to do this again? And they kind of said, already, let's go. So yeah.
So a lot of writers, directors, they write movies, direct movies, hoping, for a trilogy. You actually got it. You got the trilogy. How does that feel?
Oh, it feels great. It feels great. Now, when filmmakers set up, of course, I would like to say, it really becomes a belief. And when I set out to do it, I really expected and hoped that it would be something that everybody, you're going to have people who maybe don't like it and don't like horror, or that are horror fans and they don't understand certain decisions. But it's funny, I love horror so much that even on some of the negative criticism or negative sides, I think to myself, okay, how can I fix that for these people? Like, what can I do? And sometimes you can't make anyone happy, but like for the most part, I try and take mental notes and do what I can. But yeah, I was so excited, and I feel so like that this is what I was wanting and loving to do, so much so that I couldn't, ask for more. And I'm so excited to be doing what I'm doing now, and I'm very fortunate. And
Yeah, I would definitely, like I said, a lot of directors, start out hoping when they do a movie that it's going to become a sequel or a trilogy, and you got that. Have you had, now obviously you have not started shooting part three yet, but have you been working on anything during this whole crazy COVID pandemic that we're going through?
Yeah, so we were working on a psychological thriller called Broken Souls that's coming very soon. But there's another project. This is the horror movie that I was telling you about. I'll try and tread lightly and say what I can say about it without giving too much away. So you're getting an exclusive here first. But
awesome.
we set out. I started writing a movie 4 years ago, and it's called Nightmare. And it is. Let's just say the team of people we were working with, they tasked me with who can come up with the next big face in horror.
Okay.
And of course I'm ready. I'm like, I can do it. 4 years later, we've been working on a project, and my wife and I set out writing it. And crazy as this is, my nephew is a very talented writer, and we basically raised him in horror as well. My sister's son, Ian, In He is phenomenal. So I said to my wife, I would love to bring Ian in to write with us on this because I feel like he will add something to this, and we just knew that it was going to be a really good choice. So he's come in, and we are working on a movie called Nightmare. That's we're hoping sets the bar with this generation's horror
And
movies.
you're shooting? Are you currently shooting that now?
And we are about to go into pre-production on it. We kind of wrapped up the treatment, wrapped up the script. Everyone is responding very well to it, and we are, as you can see in my face. I mean, there's so much I would love to.
I
You
know
being a
you
horror,
like you want to spill the beans, but you
oh, I want
can't.
to tell you so much just to get you pumped up for it, but it is so scary. And just like I said, I wanted to do for part three. I want the audience to hang on from start to finish and be like, "Oh my gosh, it's over already!" And that's really what we kind of have in this one, and that's what we're going for. So
And
keep your ears
oh,
peeled for Nightmare.
absolutely, absolutely. So now, I mean, you have shot in this COVID pandemic. How have you been dealing with that as a filmmaker and all the, safety precautions that you got to take? And has it been, obviously it adds to the budget and it's crazy. There's certain protocols you got to follow, especially with all the guilds and so on. How have you been dealing with it as a writer, director, filmmaker, taking all those precautions? Has it been limiting for you? Has it even stretched you becoming even more innovative on how do you want the stuff shown on the screen the way you envision it? Tell us about that.
Right. Well, we were fortunate enough to, we released Along Came the Devil 2 that October before the pandemic
Hmm.
hit. So we kind of rolled into the holiday with everything releasing with the movie coming out. And then we went into writing mode. So we were basically during the pandemic, it basically said, get to writing, because we couldn't do much of anything anyway. So we were hard at work on some of the scripts that we have on the table. Coming out of it, we weren't overly pushy or too excited. We were like, when it happens, it happens. And then a lot of our crew that we work with we call our team, they worked a lot on different projects. So they kind of experienced what it was like to get shut down because of COVID
Hmm.
during a production. And then what it was like from start to finish and how to finish it, how to, keep everyone isolated, keep everybody in quarantine that's on set, who needs to be this and that separated. So we were pretty much for the most part, we feel like we're good now. But in a low budget film, you can't afford to shut down
No.
if you get started and someone was to get COVID. Even 4 days can tank your whole film
Oh
because
yeah.
it's part of your budget. So we were fortunate enough to not have to fall into any of that. And now we're coming out of the pandemic with where it's at right now. Now we feel comfortable with the team that we have, that we can follow protocol and
Good.
see how it is. So I'm about to experience what it's like to work with this going on with COVID now.
Awesome.
This was my,
Well, that
back.
that it's definitely going to be an eye-opening experience for you. Now, working with your wife, she played Sarah in Along
Uh-huh.
Came the Devil. How was that like? I mean, is she has she done a lot of acting? I mean, it's a non-vocal role. I mean, she was great. Yeah, is she
I'm gonna
there?
I'm gonna bring, I'm gonna bring her in
Oh,
to
is
the
Heather there? Let's talk to
right
Heather.
here. He's waiting to interview. Come on, see. She's like looking at me like, yeah, well, she wants to hear my response on how it is to
Yeah,
work with her.
yeah, yeah. You're gonna be careful. She's right there. So,
Yeah,
first of all,
it's
let me break it down this way. Was it always the plan for Heather to play Sarah?
no, it actually was not. We had a good friend of hers that's an actress ready to play the part, and she had a conflict, and we didn't know if she was able to film here in Atlanta yet, or if we had to wait to get her. I won't say the name, but because you would probably know who the actress is. And our casting director said to me, "Oh, did I? Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought I lost you.
No,
Everything
no,
got
no. You're good.
and my casting director said, "How about Heather?" And at the time, I wasn't a fan of Heather only because
Oh no.
I know. This does sound it sounds bad, but let me
Dude,
tell
I've
you the
been
reason.
married for almost 22 years. Okay.
Same here. It sounds bad, but the only reason is because she was producing this film as well.
Okay.
So she had so much on her plate dealing with agents and managers and finances and I'm a producer with her, but when the time comes working with the actors and setting up shop and film and their cameras and everything else, she lets me step away from that business side. You have to separate the two, or at least try to anyway.
Yeah.
So I didn't want her to have to worry about playing a role, which and you know obviously Sarah's role, it's a prominent role, and she's possessed, and she's in makeup all the time, or looking pretty distraught most of the time,
And also, she's the last person we see at the end of part two.
and she is the last person, and you can see what she looks like in the end of part two. It does not look like what she's about. Please come here quick. It does not look like what she looks like out of makeup.
I know.
My goodness.
Hey, Heather. Thank you for
Hi.
joining us.
Hi. I'm just on standby hanging out.
No,
I
that's
said,
awesome.
told her to stay on standby so I could bring her in and say hi.
I love hearing, stories like you guys. Do you guys now Jason mentioned that you helped him write a lot of these scripts. Do you guys normally when you're writing, do you guys work together, Heather?
Yeah.
So a lot of writing partners when you're writing, how do you split the work? I mean, is it somebody bouncing off ideas and the other one putting them down on paper? How do you guys do it?
So we have writing sessions where we write together and we write in the same room. And normally, typically, Jason will stand like for Along Came the Devil 1 and 2. It was a little different than the one we just got done writing, Nightmare, which the chemistry. That's why you're so excited for it, because it's an incredible script. I am so stoked on it, and the chemistry that the three of us had on that script was pretty special. But for part 1 and 2 of Along Came the Devil, kind of how it happens is it's all in his head, everything, and the story, the scenario, everything is in his mind, his head, and then he stands up and will act it out, and then me and for part 2 of Along Came the Devil, it was just the two of us. We will just type out like dialogue and that kind of stuff, and he'll say if he likes it or not. We go from there. And
it really works. Like for part 2 of Along Came the Devil, my brain works really fast, and so like I'm up and I'm saying, and this person says this to this person, and she'll come into a lot of times and she'll give dialogue that has that I would say a woman's touch,
touch.
And it's like because we can tell a lot of times when something's written by a man or a woman, and I feel like when it's written, when you have that touch of both, or you can't tell.
It's a good balance.
Yeah, it's a good balance.
It's a nice balance, exactly.
So Heather, I gotta ask you, putting on that makeup to be all demonically possessed, what was that experience like? Did Jason, was he there overseeing the whole process? A little bit of this, a little bit of that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. And George, because it is hard. I mean, it is bad for your skin. It is hard on your skin. It's not easy. And I'm a little claustrophobic, I'd like to say, but George is a genius. I mean, he walked me through the whole thing. He was,
she is very claustrophobic. Yeah. I had to sit with one of those things fully breathing through a straw, and she was a champ.
But and I heard you ask the question if I'm an actress. Yeah, my background is acting, but more for like a commercial actress. But my theatrical work is always like obviously something that we've been around and that we love, and our children are in the business. So to your answer to that question, yes, I am an actress.
So
I love producing though.
So the name of your production company is the DeVan Clan, which I think it's awesome. It's like, it's a very true name. It's a family business. And I love that about your production company. As your kids get older, do you have hopes for them to take on your interest in filmmaking, whether it's acting, directing, writing, or whatnot?
Well,
yeah, absolutely. Our oldest is in college, and he's in business law and finance, and his choice of that, he told me, was because he would love to come and run the company, come out of there, and I'm like, absolutely. We want our hands to be on. Our two youngest, Cassius, he's the little boy in part two who loses his head and gets chased by the father and plays Laura
He's an incredible
Wiggins.
actor.
He's in both,
Yeah,
and
they
so is
both
Tristan.
are.
And then Tristan DeVan, our middle son, is he played Wally on Raven's Home. He's he plays Kyle, Kaz's little brother on Lab Rats Elite Force on Disney Channel. Like so they've been in the business for a long
Oh
time.
wow.
He's also a genius editor.
And he's a genius editor, direct. Like they've all been in the business so long because they've grown up in it with us that it makes my job easier. Because I always feel bad, like I'm a director who's putting his family in things, and I never have to feel that way because they're very talented at what they do, so I don't have to worry about forcing anybody into any situation.
Now, Heather, as a producer on the films, how involved are you in the post-production process of Along Came the Devil and Along Came the Devil 2?
Just call me post coordinator. That's how involved I am.
Yeah.
Making sure everything is perfect and whatnot.
Business manager, his manager.
That is awesome. Oh man, I cannot wait to see Along Came the Devil 3. Nightmare, just by the look on your face, Jason. You look so stoked about doing this film. And I think it's awesome. You guys have a great family. You got a great thing going. You guys are so talented. And I just want to thank you so much. And when Along, Came the Devil 3 comes out and Nightmare comes out, I want to bring you back because I want to talk about this after the trilogy has been all laid out for us. Because I have a lot of questions and I'm sure they're going to be answered in the third one. And we have to wait for it to come out. But I would love for you guys to come back after the full story has been told. And because I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of questions and we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about. So moving forward, what is your guesstimate as when principal photography might start on Along Came the Devil Part 3?
What do you think?
I'd say the next 24 months. I mean, I know that sounds like a long time, but it's really not in the scheme of movie making.
No.
Yeah, no, it's in the pipeline. And I was going to
Yeah.
say for part three, depending on how the pandemic pans out with the rest of what's going on, I'd love to have you on set.
Oh, awesome. That'd be awesome. I accept. I'd love to visit. Did Along Came the Devil 1 or 2, did any of those two films get any kind of theatrical release?
They both did.
Yeah, they both did. Yeah.
And again, that was pre-COVID days, and everything has changed now, and video on demand is taking over.
Right.
What are you hoping for a theatrical release for Part 3?
Well, I can answer that. Things are different, and we've grown with DeVan Clan Production, and we have new relationships with different companies as well. So now, since the pandemic hit, a lot of our talks have kind of been with certain types of originals and streaming with originals. So it's more along what they decide they want to do.
Yeah.
Which we're okay with. Our job is to just make a good movie that the fans want to see.
It's the new norm.
So it's
trying to accept the new norm.
Yeah. And everything is in transition. The entertainment industry, it's moving. COVID sped up the timeline with streaming being prevalent even before COVID. Everything got sped up because of COVID, and nobody knows how it's going to end up in regards to theaters. We just got to wait and see. We are out of time. Guys, thank you so much for coming on our show. This has been such a fun hour. I really love the fact that you guys are, and don't get offended by this term, a mom and pop operation.
Oh, I love that term.
Okay, good. I didn't want to offend you. I love
Yeah.
that. I love
Yeah.
that. And I think it's awesome. It's amazing. Thank you so much. I loved Along Came the Devil, guys. If you want to watch Along Came the Devil Part 1 and 2, let's see. Part 1 it's actually not available as wide as people think. It's available on Vudu with ads. But it's not available for transactional purchases anymore. Now, Along Came the Devil Part 2,
on Amazon.
I don't know if it is anymore. I
No,
think
it's
buy-
not.
yeah.
No.
For a while, it was on Amazon Prime for free, or if you have the subscription.
have
It's
Prime.
on Epic.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part-
We did a Hulu, so I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
Hulu, but
Yeah.
not more.
Because I saw it originally, but then I wanted to rewatch it again, and I watched it on Vudu, which is Fandango now as well, with ads. But part two is available wide. It's available on Amazon, stream Paramount Plus. It's available there. So I'm just giving our viewers, if they haven't watched the movies, where they can go ahead and watch them. So again, guys, thank you so much. Any final thoughts you guys want to share before we say goodbye?
No, we appreciate you having
thank
us.
you so much.
Absolutely. The pleasure is mine. I want to thank our audience. We had a nice size audience watching tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to Jason and Heather DeVan from the DeVan Clan Productions. You guys are awesome. I wish you guys nothing but the best success. And I'm looking forward, after the third one comes out, for us to talk again. So, guys, on behalf of myself, Jason, and Heather, stay safe. Till tomorrow, stay walking. Good night. Bye-bye.